Hey there, Danielle Matthews here. I am coming to you live from Florida. Today is Monday, so we are doing book club. For those of you that maybe are new to my content, I absolutely love teaching entrepreneurs, business professionals, how to take their development to the next level. And it has to do with spiritual development, helping you understand the mind, this inner world, the dynamics that are causing you stress, that are taking away your self-confidence. And book club is a big piece of that. So for those of you that join me live on book club, let me know that you're here. I know clocks changed yesterday here in the US, so might be some issues internationally with those of you that are coming in from other places. But we're reading The Power of Now. And hey, Russ, good to see you. And if you are not familiar with this book, it was recommended to me. Someone said, Danielle, if there was one book in your entire life that you could read, this is the book. And so far, I have to agree. It really puts the blueprint down for how to live a life of inner peace and where to find happiness. And speaking of, this chapter 9, was called Beyond Happiness and Unhappiness, There is Peace. And it really gets at what life is really about and how our mind really truly believes that it should just seek pleasure and avoid pain. But when you really look at life, the best learning comes in the difficult times. And so who is to say what's positive and what's negative, right? Our mind has a lot to say, but the mind is wrong. It's very limited. It sees through like a tunnel vision. It does not have the deeper perspective. And this chapter really touches on that. So I'm really excited to dive into it. And if you get value from this, of course, share it on your page, tag a friend here. Let's get this knowledge out there because I think this is what people are searching for. People are so unhappy these days, and this is where you find happiness. So book club people, let me know when you're here. And I think I'm just going to dive in because, as always, there's a lot to cover in a half hour. So the way that this book is set up is basically Eckhart Tolle is like a spiritual teacher. And for a long time, he's been getting lots of questions from lots of people. And he basically sets the book up where there's themed questions. And the first question here in this chapter is, what's the difference between happiness and inner peace? And I would ask you that question. Do you understand the difference in your own life between happiness and that inner peace? Inner peace is always there. It is something that it's like the sky in the background. Happiness can come and go. But when you find inner peace, like that's what you're really after in life. And someone posed the question to him, is it not possible to attract only positive conditions into your life? If our attitude and our thinking are always positive, we would manifest only positive events and situations, wouldn't we? Hey, Charlotte. And people say this all the time, right? The law of attraction, it gets a lot of popularity, right? There's a lot of people talking about that. And the law of attraction says, oh, well, if I have a high frequency, I'll only attract in high frequency things. Things are always going to be positive. They're always going to be amazing. Life's going to be great. And Russ, I'm glad you love the book. And yeah, sharing this has been so amazing. This book has been so fun to talk with you all. And basically, this to me sums up everything. This one question, he says, do you truly know what is positive and what is negative? When you actually come down to it, do you really know what's positive and what's negative? And do you have the total picture? And I would put forth to you that your mind does not. Right? Your mind is a hard drive. It's like a computer. It knows what's been put into it, what's been programmed by society, by culture, by your parents, by your experiences in life. But it does not have the full picture, right? You don't know what you don't know. But the mind has a hard time with that concept. And the truth is, I talk often about my car accident because it was such a pivotal moment in my life. It took my health for several years. It was hell to go through. It was probably what I would have called at the time the most negative experience I've ever had in my life. But now, 11 years on, I look at it and I go, wow, it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. Truly. Like the best thing that's ever occurred because it opened me up to so much more, to what life is really about, not all the stuff that I thought it was about. And that's what he's saying here. He's saying, look, there have been many people for whom limitation, failure, loss, illness, pain, in whatever form, turned out to be their greatest teacher. It taught them to let go of false images, the self-image, really, the superficial, ego-dictated goals and desires. It gave them depth. It gave them humility. It gave them compassion. It made them more real. And I would put forth that I've had this experience in my life. Who has in theirs? Just put a 1 in the chat. If you're like, yeah, this resonates. I've gone through some stuff and coming out on the other side of that stuff feels pretty good. And you've learned some things, right? It humbles you. Life 100% humbles you. It's good. Those things are positive. Guys, if you're watching me and you're a little delayed, make sure you jump forward in the live. And I don't know, it also could be my internet. Living in the forest, sometimes we're a little slow. But Charlotte says she's had it. Karen says she's had it. Lou says, I want to be able to learn from you. Well, I'm happy to share, Lou. Book Club is always here every Monday. And then, of course, Inner Management Mastery. I will be opening up. We're just finishing. Inner Management Mastery finishes, the first round of it finishes on Sunday. And it has been incredible. So yes, more to come with that. I'll start a new 6-week series in January with that. But if you're interested, just reach out, Lou, and I think you're on my radar for that. Fritz says, not as drastic as your accident. That's okay. It doesn't have to be drastic. He also says in this book, because I think some people think, oh, I have to go through hell to like see the light. No, you don't. No, you don't. Sometimes you just have to wake up one day and ask, is this really all there is? Like, I've had the success. I make good money. I've met great people. I have friends. I've got a nice family. Like, I've got all the things, but there's something inside of you that's like, wait, isn't there more? Like, this doesn't, like, I've made it. I've done what the culture said, society said I should do, and yet there's something more. So, Fritz, it doesn't have to be some big thing. It's just an awareness, and I would say you have it, or you wouldn't be here, right? There's something inside of you scratching, knocking, saying, hey, I think there's more to this life. You know, and it's usually when you start to question, when you kind of pull back from having like done all these things in the external world. It happens to some people at retirement because they've been so in their career, so in the doing, and then all of a sudden they stop, they have space and time, and they go, what is this all really about? Right? Why am I really here? And that's the awakening. And Fritz, I'd say that's where you are. Juliet says, yeah, my back injury was one of the best things that could have happened to me. Yeah, you wake up. You do. You really do. So, the other thing I wanted to say with this is, you know, do you really know positive and negative? You don't. Like, your mind literally moves on this track. The mind, how it's programmed. Seek pleasure, avoid pain. That is the track that it moves on. And that's how it's informing you to take action. Do this because you'll get pleasure. Don't do that because you won't. And so when something bad happens, it freaks out because that's painful and it doesn't want that. But the truth is, as Juliet's experience with her back, these are the times that open you. I wish I had it. I was cleaning. I don't know where I put it, but I have this like geode. It's like a black rock and it's broken open and it's beautiful and pink inside. And it's like, if it was just in this position, it's no good. Kind of like an egg. Like if you've got an egg that's beautiful and the shell's all nice, it's great, but until you crack it, until the shell breaks, you can't use it, right? For our purposes of eating, right? Of course, it can become a chicken, but I'm saying, you know, but eventually even the chicken has to crack the egg, right? It has to crack the shell to get the good stuff. The good stuff's inside. The good stuff's inside. So sometimes you gotta break open, right? That's what it's really all about. And he says, seen from a higher perspective, there really is neither positive nor negative. And I have, you guys see it all the time behind me, I've got a yin yang. I have them all over the place. I keep this on my desk because this is a constant reminder to me that, hey, it's one whole. Like, we're after the whole. Inner peace comes when I accept the dark and the light, right? The good and the bad, the up and the down, life and death. When I'm at peace with those things, it's great. Happiness is like fleeting. You wouldn't know happy if you didn't know sad. So you got to kind of appreciate that both, one teaches the other, and we need both to feel whole. But the brain goes, seek pleasure, avoid pain, seek pleasure, avoid pain, right? That's what your brain does, and it drives you nuts, and you're not going to get anywhere, okay? You're not going to get the inner peace. Inner peace comes when the whole thing's together. It's the way it is. And, man, 10 minutes on the first paragraph of this chapter. We're not going to get through the whole thing. He said, so in the book of Genesis, I love this. Adam and Eve were no longer allowed to dwell in paradise when they ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. What does that mean? They ate from the knowledge of good versus evil, right? Do you get it? They went into duality. They ate and said, I like this, I don't like this. And all of a sudden they were split from the whole. You can't have inner peace if you choose for one and not the other. And that's what happened with Adam and Eve. That's what that is saying. If you don't eat from that, if you just say, I accept all as it is, you've got inner peace. But if you eat off that tree, you move into duality, and that's where most of us in our human experience live, and it is not great. Okay? It is not great, because this side of things has to come. We live in polarity here, right? We have to have up and down, or it wouldn't make any sense. Angela says, the crack is where the light gets in. Yeah, the wound is where the light gets in. That's exactly right. It's a Rumi quote. So, how this works, he says, you can be at peace. There may be sadness and tears, because people get confused, because they're like, well, how am I at peace when there's like a death of a loved one? Like, it's sad. And like, yes. And it's okay to be sad. Remember, the mind has told you sadness is not okay, but it's okay. In order to know happy, you have to know sad. And sad things happen. And especially death. Death also reminds you of your own death, that's unavoidably sad. You know, but because the ego gets sad about that, for sure. And it's a sad thing because someone's physical presence is gone. But anyway, he says, underneath the sadness, you will feel a deep serenity, a stillness, a sacred presence, right? That's what we're talking about. And that's really what it's all about, is getting there. So this next question, what if it is a situation that I can do something about? How can I allow it to be and change it at the same time? So put a 2 in the chat. If there's a situation in your life right now that you're like, I can change this, but I'm also like trying to figure out, do I just accept this because this is what is, and this is what the spiritual teachings say, and you're confused, right? I think I've talked to some of you about like stuff at work where you're like, okay, like I am not okay with this, but it's happening, so do I just rest with it? What do I do? What do I do? And he gets into that. He says, do what you have to do, but in the meantime, accept what is, right? And just understanding that if you're resisting what is, you're going to take away your own peace. So his suggestion is just accept that the situation is what it is. And then from that place where you're stable and non-emotional about the whole thing, then go, well, what can I do about this? Like, what choice can I make? What statement can I make? Who can I involve? What can I do to impact this situation so that it is okay? But if you come in with a charge from your ego because you're resisting the situation, it's not going to go as well. If you can just accept the situation and go, all right, well, from here, given that this is as it is, how can I navigate it? That's the ticket. That's the ticket. And he gets on and he says, it seems that most people need to experience a great deal of suffering before they really relinquish resistance and they learn to accept. And then they can transmute the suffering into inner peace. Yeah, we have to hit our head on the wall like a lot before we wake up and go, is this serving me? I don't think this is serving me. It's very, very true. And he says the ultimate effect of all the evil and suffering in the world is that it will force humans into realizing who they are beyond name and form, right? The worse it gets, the closer we all get to awakening. That's powerful, especially with what's going on, the wars that are happening in the world, the intensity with just politics and information and misinformation and all the things that are happening right now. There's a lot of people feeling really down, saying like, this is a very dark time for humanity. And what he's putting forth, and what I would put forth too, is, hey, from the darkness, right? It's darkest before the dawn. It has to, because you have to hit your head up against the wall so hard. It has to get so intense that you surrender. Just the first chapter, right? He wanted to kill himself. And it was that intense moment that opened him to the reality of, oh my gosh, I'm living in love. Love is all around. My mind was the thing making me crazy. And he said, collectively, humanity, we're at that point, right? And so all the evil, all the suffering, all the intense stuff, all the oppression, like we talked last week, the oppression of women, all the stuff that's going on, he says this is the thing that we need so that we start to look at and realize, wow, we are something more than all of this. And it wakes humanity up to it, because right now, humanity is really stuck in the mind. It's very ego-driven. So that made me feel, I don't know, hopeful. And also like what we're doing here is going to make a difference, because these conversations are fabulous. They're what need to happen. All right. And he says, what we perceive as evil from our limited perspective is actually part of the higher good that has no opposite. Everything comes from one. So everything ultimately has its purpose. It has its place. And the whole idea is, what Simone said, humanity needs to surrender to love. Love is all. Totally agree. Totally agree. And this is really what it's all about. But you got to wake up first. You got to wake up to like want to surrender. And sometimes it's got to get intense. You really got to go at it in order to get to that point. And I love this, because once you realize what the mind is doing, you just like look at people, and it's not from a place of judgment, because like, hey, we've all been there. Our ego has like taken us on all sorts of rides, but to me, I just have compassion, and I'm like, man, the human condition is kind of insane. Like, it's kind of insane that we get placed here. We don't realize the power we have. We have this mind that thinks it's everything. And then like we go through life and the mind is actually making us miserable. And eventually we're so miserable that we wake up to the fact that we're so powerful. And then we see everybody else making themselves miserable. And we're like, they don't know yet, right? He says, most of the so-called bad things that happen in people's lives are due to unconsciousness. They are self-created. This is the thing you start to see. You start to see how people's patterns are bringing in the same exact situations. They're self-created, or rather ego-created. He says, Eckhart Tolle refers to these things as drama. And he says, when you're fully conscious, drama does not come into your life anymore. And if you want to understand the ego, I think page 150, he talks about it so beautifully of like what ego is and why and how it's causing such issues in our life, which I think for us, our group, we're there. We've like gotten that understanding. But most people, he says, are in love with their particular life drama. They love it because they identify with it, right? The ego needs conflict. The ego needs fear. The ego needs all these things to exist. And so in some weird, crazy way, right, the suffering actually creates the identity of the ego in the person. Just wild. And interestingly, the ego, he says, they will fear and resist, what they will fear and resist most is their own awakening. Because when you awaken, it's the end of the ego. Or you giving energy to it, right? We need the mind. It definitely has its place, right? It keeps us going on a daily basis. But it's this crazy predicament we're in, right? It's just wild. The thing that is dictating our life is the biggest barrier in the way of us awakening, because when we awaken, it no longer exists. And so it is holding on for dear life. And it's intense, totally intense. And he says, drama, like there's still going to be conflict. Like there's still going to be stuff that comes up, stuff you're going to need to deal with. But the fact is that your inner reactiveness to it isn't there. And so it doesn't come with the same charge. It doesn't create drama for you. Super fascinating. When you've experienced it, you'll go, oh, this is what they're talking about. Like, yeah. Pretty interesting. All right. He says, is it not true that the up cycle is good and the down cycle bad, except in the mind's judgment? Growth is usually considered positive, but nothing can grow forever. If growth, of whatever kind, were to go on, it would eventually become monstrous and destructive. Dissolution is needed for new growth to happen. One cannot exist without the other. This is the whole thing, right? Polarity. You have to grow, and then he says dissolution also has to happen. It's just the natural order of things. You can't grow forever, because then you will become destructive. I mean, just look at humanity. Super fascinating. It's all about this. That's why I have these yin-yangs all over the place, because it's just reminding, right? Just reminding. He says the down cycle is essential for spiritual realization. You must have failed deeply on some level or experienced some deep loss or pain to be drawn to the spiritual dimension. Or perhaps, Fritz, like we were talking about, the very success became empty and meaningless, so it turned out to be failure. Right? You're like, wait, I worked my whole life, I got all these things, but like, I still don't feel like I've reached it. Like, there's more. And that's exactly what, the spiritual path is all about, is waking up to the fact that there's more. I thought this interesting. Who notices ups and downs? Like, high five me. Give me a 5 in the chat. Who notices ups and downs with their own, like, creativity, their own energy levels? I have found, like, Monday, I'm on. Tuesday, creative. Wednesday, sustained. Thursday, I'm like, oh my God, don't talk to me. I just want to sleep. I don't know what it is, but the cycle of my body is that way. Thursday is just like, if you want me to be creative on a Thursday, not much is coming out of this brain. I don't know why. It's just like, that's what it is. And Fridays are a good catch-up day for me. And then Saturday or Sunday, I'm pretty sustained, except in the evenings, as we've learned. Some of you have learned. I'm not as on in the evening. But he says your physical energy, so Charlotte, Fritz, Karen, yeah, you're high-fiving. You've noticed this with yourself. If you haven't, guys, you might be driving yourself too hard. And your body might be talking to you and you're not hearing it. But he says your physical energy is also subject to cycles. There will be periods when you are highly active and creative, but there may also be times when everything seems really stagnant. And he said these things can cycle from a few hours to a few years. I've been in my own business now for 8 years. And as an entrepreneur, right, you got your own fire burning. Like, you're the one in the driver's seat. You're the one making things happen. And I have noticed that there's cycles yearly cycles that I go. There are some years that I am on. Like, it's just all go. And then other years where I'm like, I just like want to sit. Like, I'm just not, that like go isn't there. The fire's not as bright. And I used to try and push past it, but now I'm like, no, I think there's like a natural here. Like, you can't be all systems go all the time. You'll burn out. You got to honor the ebb and the flow. But if you're not doing too much, that's also a problem. Like, if you're like being too much, you need to kick on the gas for a little while, right? It's that balance. And he says the body knows. Because he says many illnesses are created through fighting against these cycles of low energy, which is vital for regeneration. He says the body knows. And if the intelligence of the organism is so profound that if your mind, right, is continuing to push, your body will create a disease. It will create a problem so that you have to stop. You're literally forced to stop. Because that's what the organism needs. Super fascinating. And if you don't honor it when it asks, you're probably going to run your body out. Wild. Does that feel like true? Are you guys like, put a 1? Are you like, yeah, true for me? I've noticed this. And maybe, some of you maybe have even done this to yourself where you've created a problem in your body. Because of all the doing, because of the overdoing. Anyone there? Yeah, it's like, it's wild. Yeah, okay, now I'm getting the ones. Yeah, there's for sure a slight delay. So there you all are. Okay. The other thing, who liked this story about the actress? Like, I read that paragraph like several times because I was like, wow, what he's sharing here is really powerful. The quote that hit me the most was, they cannot distinguish between their life and their life situation. So he says sometimes people, they lose their money, they lose their health, they lose their fortune, they lose whatever, and they just think like, well, they commit suicide, right? And he said, look, people need to learn to distinguish their life from the life situation, who they are, the essence of who they are, and what's currently in their life. Nothing that's currently in your life is worth taking your life. It's just not. It's a life situation. And he was talking about this actress that was in her 80s and just became a recluse because she had been known for her looks. And as she aged and was in her 80s, she lost her looks. And I thought it was really interesting that he said if someone had only told her that beauty is within, that this external image doesn't matter, he said her external form would have become increasingly transparent to the light shining through from her ageless true nature. Because you are source made manifest, right? You are that. And when the mind gets quiet, that light comes through and you're like a beacon of it. You can see it. And he says her beauty would not really have faded, but simply would have become transformed into spiritual beauty. But nobody told her that. This most essential kind of knowledge is not yet widely accessible. Whoa. Whoa. And that's true for each of us. Like the more we do this, the more you will start to radiate from within. People are going to get attracted to you like a magnet. And they're going to be like, I don't know what it is about you, but there's just something. I just feel good. Why? Because your mind is quiet and that true nature, your inner light is shining. And that is something that people want to be around because they have it in themselves as well. And it reminds them of that. Just so beautiful. And I thought, yeah, this stuff needs to be more widely accepted. Like, this is what humanity needs. This is what humanity needs to realize. All right. Well, there's a lot more. So we got 4 minutes. So I'm just trying to see any final notes. Anything else? Any other good ones that you guys wanted to call out? Oh, these are so good. Okay, so the last thing, I'll end with where we stopped this chapter, or this part of the chapter. We read the first half. He was talking about how watch any plant or animal and let it teach you acceptance of what is. Surrender to the now. This would be a good assignment for all of us this week. Okay? He says, let it teach you being. Let it teach you integrity, which means to be one, to be yourself, to be real. Let it teach you how to live and how to die and how not to make living and dying into a problem. This is what nature and animals can teach you. He says, no other life form on the planet knows negativity except humans. We're the only ones that know it. And just as no other life form violates and poisons the earth that sustains them, right? Like we're negative and we make a mess out of things. He says, have you ever seen an unhappy flower or a stressed out oak tree? You have not, because they're living in harmony, right? Have you ever seen a depressed dolphin or a frog with low self-esteem? No. And it's like comical to think about it, right? Have you seen a cat that can't relax or a bird that carries hatred and resentment? No. Right? He does say that animals with neurotic behavior, the ones that are typically like dogs, some cats, because they're living in close proximity to us and they pick up our energy, our craziness. So he says basically watch animals. And he said he learned a ton from his Zen masters, his cats, which yes, I have learned a lot from this cat that adopted us. Just to be chill. Like he is just chill all of the time. And if something happens, like the dog, scares him or something, he gets like this for a minute and then you see him like shake. And this is exactly what he was talking about. He said he was watching these ducks and these ducks would just be peacefully kind of like swimming along, like totally in unison with life. Occasionally they'd come into contact with each other. They'd fight for a bit. It would be over quickly. They'd swim away and both would like flap their feathers. And he said, basically, they're discharging that like extra energy. And he said, that's natural wisdom. If you have too much extra energy trapped into the system, you don't want it. And he says it's easy for them because they don't have the mind that keeps the past alive unnecessarily and then builds an identity around it. And that's what we do. We take these negative situations and we hold them almost like a badge of honor. I've been through this. I've done this. And, this hurt me and I'll never let it hurt me again. And these negative situations get built in. And as we've talked about in our Inner Management Master, we just talked about it this last week, it can actually get built into your physical body and show up in certain ways in your body. And it's wild. But that doesn't happen with animals because they shake it off. Literally. All you need to do is shake it off. So get out in nature this week. I'm just looking out. There are these beautiful cranes in my yard right now. And they're so zen. They really just flow with things. Like they're aware of their environment and just to be like them. So enjoy that this week. I look forward to hearing how it goes. Message in the Telegram chat if there's any epiphanies from watching any of the animals or being out in nature. And we'll be back next week. Yeah, animals don't hold grudges, Julie. Exactly. They don't. We should learn a lot from them, and we could. So lots of love. If this hit home, guys, make sure you share it. Make sure you tag somebody. Get the word out there about this. Humanity needs this. And Fritz just said, I really like the part where he says, accept what is, and an intelligence much greater than the mind is now in charge. And it's right in front of us. It is. Yeah, when you accept, when you surrender, when you just say, I don't know if it's good or bad. I don't know if it's up or down. I just know that it is. Now the greater intelligence of the whole is there for you. And you will connect in with it. When your mind's not chattering about all this stuff, you will find an inner peace, your intuition. You become a conduit for source. It's powerful. So, all right, lots of love. Thanks for an awesome way to start Monday. And I'll talk with all of you guys soon.